Hey guys, welcome back to Chariot Palmistry. Today we're going to be answering the question, should you read the lines on the hands of children? And the short answer to this is no, but there's a bit of thinking that goes behind this. You see, all the palmistry that applies to adults also applies to kids. So in theory, yes, you can look at the hands of a child, you can make predictions about the future and everything else along those lines. However, the question is, should you do that? And there's a couple different schools of thoughts on this. My thinking personally is you shouldn't read the lines of children because there's actually nothing that you can say to a child that's going to help them. So if you think about it, the children don't really need to know about their career. They don't want to know about trouble with their in-laws or marriage or anything like that. They've got their bubble of innocence around them, and you don't want to be the guy pricking at that with a pin, giving them things to worry about in the future. Their parents will do that. Their parents will want to know when they get married, what they're going to do for work. But as a palmist, that's not really your concern. All those things will come to children eventually, sooner or later. And that's why there's very little that you can say to a child that can actually help them. And because you can't help them, should you really be using palmistry to do anything for them? And my thinking is no. The other way to look at it, of course, is you can't actually do much to help those parents anyway. Most parents are going to be nervous and anxious about their children no matter what you tell them. That's just the nature of what parents are. And then there's this other ethical question to this as well. In the traditional palmistry texts, what they said was that you should not read the hands of someone unless they asked you to. So in ancient India, if you went to a palmist and asked them to read your hands, they would do it. But a palmist would not, ethically speaking, go out of his way to read your hand. That was like a taboo. You'd bind your karma with other people by reading their hands without their permission or that kind of thing. The only exception to that though was if a parent came to you and asked you to read the hands of their children, and then the palmist was allowed to. So in the ancient world or in ancient India, they did kind of sometimes maybe read the hands of children, but it wasn't something that people would actively look at doing. And I want to give you guys the experience I had about 10 or 15 years ago where I read the hands of a baby. This was a social setting, so it wasn't like a professional context where the parents came to me and said, here, read my child's hand. I was at a friend's house and she just had a baby, and her parents or her in-laws said, can you read this child's hand? And I did. And I saw on that hand this child wasn't going to live to see his first birthday. What I saw on the hand was this child had very serious heart problems. So I asked the parents, were there developmental issues with this baby when it was being born? And they said yes, there were heart problems or complications with that, with this child. And I knew then that, things are really dodgy here. So what do you say to those parents? You can't say, don't worry about the future career of this child or when he'll get married, because he's not going to survive. You can't do something like that ethically. So I just told them, look, make sure that you're getting his heart checked out, and these are the key months to watch out for. And I just kind of left it at that. Sadly, about 6 months after that reading, that child did actually pass away from heart complications. So that's the other reason I don't like reading the hands of children, not because everyone's going to pass away, but because all the bad stuff gets amplified, and it's really hard to find the middle ground on what to explain to parents with all the bad stuff that's going to happen to someone. Because when you read someone's hand, you see all the good stuff, but you also see the bad stuff. And as a good palmist, it's your job to help them avoid the bad stuff and help them amplify the good stuff. Kids, you can't do that with. You can't tell a child, quit your job at the age of 32 and go work in this industry, because they would have forgotten it by the time they're 32. So it becomes a moot point that way. Having said that, I do read the hands of my children all the time. The thing with kids is their brains are still pliable. So if you see something there on their hands that you don't like, then there's still time to change it. So for example, my oldest son, a couple days ago, he developed a mark on his hands that showed poor eyesight. And what happened then was Santa just gave him an Xbox a couple of weeks ago, and he's been on it non-stop. So because I know palmistry and because I know there's eyesight problems starting up for him, we're going to put a limit on that Xbox. So there are ways to use palmistry for children, but you've got to be very ethical about it and very selective also in terms of what you tell people. Alright guys, I hope that helps you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Thank you.